people sometimes get what they pay for. I like Costco and I like the value I get. But if you buy a Michelin tire for 80,000 mile guarantee, you could go to Discount, Big O, Costco, whatever. That's the tire, right? That's a commodity. A power of attorney is not a commodity. You have no idea. They're all radically different. What about a will?
Yeah.
And a will might not be the most important document, right? You might want it to avoid court with a transfer on death deed, and let alone a trust. So it's really hard to shop prices. What you should do is just do your homework when you want to do an estate plan. Get to know someone that asks good questions and see if they treat you well, and hire someone you're comfortable with.
Welcome to the Answers for Elders radio show.
And welcome back, everyone, to Answers for Elders Radio Network. And we are here with Stephen Waltar, estate planning and elder law attorney. And we are talking about estate planning and just the whole factor of how do you get your ducks in a row? And obviously, a will and testament or anything like that, those are all things that we may know about, but there's also, so many aspects to what an estate planning whole plan is. And so, Steve, welcome back to Answers for Elders.
Glad to be here.
The next question that I have is obviously, how do you make updates to an estate plan?
Yeah, because wills can be in effect for 50 years or a long time. Let me first start by saying what you should not do. You should not take out your original will and start crossing off, oh, this person's dead,
No, yeah.
Oh, this agent,
write the new
don't
name
like
in.
that. You start scratching things up, and there's been cases on this, and there's fights on this, because sometimes you make changes to who gets what, and they will sometimes throw out the will and say, oh, you obviously intended, you didn't like it. You intended to throw it out. Yeah. So a much better strategy, of course, it's meet with an attorney, but I would say make copies of, review your documents, but make copies of things, and the things you want to change. Then on the copy, you say, oh, what happened, or mark this out. Something to kind of help process this with your attorney. But ideally, you will not only send the attorney a copy of that, but you'll actually meet with an attorney. And what I want to make sure is that I have an update of their assets and an update of their people, right? Because if someone comes in and they're saying, Steve, I want you to change this paragraph, that's tunnel vision. That's not that helpful. Of course, I can change that paragraph. Now, if you change a will, it takes 3 pages, right? You have to make your change, then you have to sign it with 2 people, then you have to self-proving page. Just if you change 1 word, it's going to take 3 pages. But the whole point is people don't know what they don't know. So what they should do is make sure, without messing up documents, to write down their worries, their concerns, but update your estate documents, like do a review questionnaire, so that when they come in and meet with an attorney, we see the whole picture. Yeah. Because I may tell them, oh, you want to change this, but a will is not the way to do that. You need to do a transfer on death deed, or oh, you had everything on one document. These are terrible. You need separate healthcare, financial. They don't know what they don't know.
Right. And I think the other thing, it's like on a power of attorney. I remember when my mother used to have my former sister-in-law, and then they got a divorce. And so she transferred it to me because my mom was here and down with me. And we visited an attorney. And at the time, the attorney revoked the old power of attorney. It was actually a document that she was given so that she knew that she was no longer the power of attorney. That's pretty standard operating procedure, correct?
Yeah, powers of attorney and wills will always revoke prior ones. The challenge is that sometimes people have recorded powers of attorney. Like if you try to buy and sell real estate under power of attorney, you have to record it in the county. So if it's been recorded, even if you have a new one, you kind of want to let the world know you want to revoke the old one and record something to that effect. Right. Or if someone's done like a will filing, and there used to be a way you could, in the King County Court, you could pre-file a will. Right. And then it's like in the vault, and it's you or the only certain people can get it out. And that's a little awkward.
Yeah. Well, and Steve, it makes sense too. Like if your senior loved one, let's say, is in assisted living, if there's a new power of attorney, they need to be notified directly because they have that on file. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. So we always recommend we make extra copies of the healthcare power and say your primary physician should have this. When
Mm-hmm.
you're moving into a retirement community, you probably want them to know who is the financial power and who is the healthcare power.
Correct. Yeah.
And sometimes we have to let institutions know, oh, this is no longer the power of attorney, or this is no
Mhm.
longer the trustee.
Mm-hmm. And then obviously like the bank needs to be, I mean, I'm sure you guys, when you work with people, you tell them all the entities that they probably need to contact. If there's insurance companies, different things like that, credit card companies, different things like that, that you're working with. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know if I am totally getting, if you're looking into the practical side of management, that's a little different than what estate planning attorneys do most of the time. We build the plans. Now,
Got
if
it.
it's if
Okay.
someone's aging, and like we get this all the time,
Yeah.
I can't, the bank or the trust, Morgan Stanley won't honor what I'm saying. I'm power of attorney, and they call me, and then I finally tell them, look, the account's in the trust, so they're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Your power of attorney, you have to be a co-trustee. You got to get mom to resign, or we'll add you as co. So we can help kind of with aging or like transition of agents, but it's given with living trust, we help with the documents to get assets into the trust or payable on death, but I don't go to the bank. I don't, clients do that. So
Right.
I would say, part of elder law is maybe a little bit more of that hand holding, a little bit more of that transitioning, but I wouldn't say that's part of the initial plan. That's like a little bit more thorough involvement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How are people sometimes penny wise and pound foolish? I want to know that answer to that question.
Oh my gosh. Even this week, I had a 99-year-old gentleman come in. He
Oh.
served in World War II. He had all these great stories. And I asked a lot of questions about the son. I'll be kind of vague here, but what I'm trying to do, like I said before, is I want to know who the beneficiary is, and would they be sued? Are they single? Are they married? Is there any likelihood? And after I did some analysis, I finally said, okay, I think we can just do a simple will, and we can do a transfer on death deed. We don't need a trust. We don't need to get fancy. I mean, the last will listed a guardian for a 60-year-old son. It's kind of crazy, right? But then the child was shocked that it was going to cost a little north of $2,000 to do a will and probate avoidance and all that. It's like,
Oh my gosh.
this was even an attorney, I believe, but I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, so it's just like many of my clients. There's a little sticker shock, right? I mean, I did $800 trust plans, 30 years ago. This was a will plan. It avoids court. Yeah, you could do a will form, but it's not going to avoid court.
Mm-hmm.
It can't avoid court. It can guide court. So I think someone was looking at like a dollar amount, and he wasn't realizing the value. And people sometimes get what they pay for.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's interesting too because I know of attorneys that charge like $30,000 for just a plain estate plan, off the shelf scenarios I'm not going to mention their names here,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
I've been outraged at the lack of attention and and mindfulness towards the client, and they're just ripping people off. So $2,000 for a basic estate plan for a 99-year-old person is more than reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really more than reasonable. You have this website of so much content. Tell us a little bit about your website on Waltar, that's WALTAR.com. And what can people find?
Well, there's a lot of articles. I mean, you can read about us and our attorneys and, our free consults and stuff like that. You could probably download a form for a questionnaire to meet with us. But I think there's so many resources on what's the trouble with joint tenancy? What's the truth about probate in Washington? When should you update your plan? Those are there's just resources and articles,
Yeah.
lots of stuff. We even have some blogs and things on topics.
Well, and certainly, as people are going through and they're trying to figure this out, a lot of that pertains to people all across the USA. But also if you're in another state, you're part of the association. I think it's called the Academy of Estate Planning Attorneys. Is that
It's
what
the
it is?
American Academy of Estate
American Academy. There we go. So to be a member of that organization means you have to meet certain criteria. Is that correct?
do. Yeah, the Washington State Bar requires us 15 hours a year in education, and it can be any field.
Mhm.
The American Academy requires 36 hours a year, so more
Wow.
than double, all in the field of estate planning and elder law.
Wow.
So they want a really kind of high caliber of person, really educated on the law and keep current on things.
You can find attorneys that are members of that, the American Academy of Estate Planning Attorneys. So if you're out of the state of Washington, that is a great
They
place.
have a public website, just aaepa.com, or, and then there's a
Uh-huh.
private one with a lot more resources. So you can get attorneys anywhere. I thought of a story about Michelin tires that I want to get to.
Yes, please
Right?
do.
Because I like Costco and I like the value I get. But if you buy a Michelin tire for 80,000 mile guarantee, you could go to Discount, Big O, Costco, whatever. That's the tire, right?
Mhm.
It's you may be liking the background of a company, but that's a commodity. A power of attorney is not a commodity. You have no idea. They're all radically different.
Mhm.
Is it immediate? Is it springing? Is it a hybrid? Is it a healthcare one? Is it a finances? Is it durable? Is it not durable? It's not like a tire. If that's what you could say about choosing a power of attorney, what about a will?
Yeah.
And a will might not be the most important document, right? You might want to avoid court with a transfer on death deed, and let alone a trust. So it's really hard to shop prices. What you should do is just do your homework when you want to do an
Mhm.
estate plan. Get to know someone that asks good questions and see if they treat you well, and hire someone you're comfortable with. But you
Mhm.
can't become an expert at all these things.
Yeah.
Wills and estate planning is not a commodity. So that's
Yeah.
back to your penny wise, pound foolish, is thinking I got it all. Lowest price
Yeah.
is always best. That's pretty foolish.
Well, and it's so true because, going to somebody that has the expertise like you do, they're going to ask you, like you said, questions that you may not be aware of. There might be law changes that you don't know about, all different types of scenarios that will, make it more difficult on the people that are trying to honor your wishes if you don't keep it current. And I think that's one of the things that we definitely want to make sure that we do. And so, Steve, I know you and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about keeping your estate planning documents current, and how do you do that throughout your life. And we'll be right back right after this. Did you know that you can discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at answersforelders.com.